It was the fourth Supreme Court challenge in the last 4 years to the Affordable Care Act, and with this one, as on all previous occasions, the divisions in the country over Obamacare were reflected in the divisions on the court's plaza.
Some employers want to use their religious beliefs to block women's access to birth control. Yes, Jesus loves me.
The issue this time is similar to a case 2 years ago in which the court ruled that privately held firms do not have to provide coverage for contraception if doing so violates their religious convictions. The current case involves religiously affiliated nonprofits, schools, hospitals, and charities such as the Little Sisters of the Poor, an order of Roman Catholic nuns devoted to serving the poor and the elderly. Founded in France 175 years ago, the order has 28 homes for the elderly in the United States. The Catholic faith pervades life at their home in Washington, D.C. They celebrate Mass every morning. And because of their faith and their belief that any form of contraception is a sin, the sisters do not have to directly provide contraception coverage to their employees. But they do have to make coverage available through a third party. They have to fill out and submit a government form identifying the insurance carrier and contact information. If that's too much, even a simple letter with the same information will do. It is an accommodation, but one the sisters reject.
There is an accommodation and we don't have to pay, that's true. But for us, it's never been a question of money. It's a question of participation in something that we consider a moral evil.
The sisters rely on a federal law, the Religious Freedom Restoration Act. Signed into law in 1993 by President Bill Clinton, the law says the government may not substantially burden a person's exercise of religion unless doing so is the least restrictive means to further some compelling government interest. We know that you and the Catholic Church are against this, but how does it affect your practice of your faith?
I think asking us to facilitate the provision of something that we consider morally objectionable, that's where it enters into the practice of our faith. Because practicing one's faith is not only a matter of worshiping in church or saying prayers, but it's in all the daily decisions of our lives. So how we conduct ourselves, it's not only a matter of what happens in church.
The sisters' lawsuit is one of 7 consolidated cases heard by the court on Wednesday, all raising the same basic questions. Whether requiring the plaintiffs to sign off on contraception coverage, even though they don't have to pay for it, is still a substantial burden on their religious freedom. And if it is, might there be some other less offensive means of promoting women's health? The more liberal wing of the court appeared supportive of the government. Justice Sonia Sotomayor. When contraceptives are provided to women in a seamless way, the number of unintended pregnancies dramatically falls, as does the number of abortions. Justice Stephen Breyer observed that in a pluralistic society, religion can't trump everything. Think of the Quakers who object to Vietnam, or the people who object to shoveling the snow in front of an abortion clinic. The more conservative justices appear to be lining up behind the sisters. Justice Sam Alito was most supportive, noting that many religious groups, not just Catholics, have found the contraception mandate the greatest threat to religious liberty in this country. And Chief Justice John Roberts wondered out loud about how compelling the government's interest was, given that millions of Americans are exempt from the law for both religious and non-religious reasons.
If the government wants to provide these services, the government is free to provide them. And all the Little Sisters are asking today is that the government uses all of its other programs to provide the services it wants. The government today told the Supreme Court that it is not interested in an approach where there are 2 different plans. Instead, it wants to borrow the Little Sisters plan and make the sisters violate their beliefs. There's no reason to do that. This is a diverse country. It is very easy to provide these services without nuns.
Women deserve insurance coverage of birth control no matter where they work. This birth control benefit has been a game changer for women. It has advanced women's health, advanced women's equality, and it saved women over $1 billion in 1 year alone. These employers want to take that benefit away from their employees. The alternatives that they proposed in court today are unworkable and frankly insulting.
And you know, we Little Sisters of the Poor are a group of women who make religious vows to God. Now we find ourselves in a situation where the government is requiring us to make changes in our religious health care plan to include services that really violate our deepest held religious beliefs as Little Sisters. You know, it's hard to understand why the government is doing this. There are 1/3 of Americans in our country that are not covered by this mandate, and you know, there's large corporations such as Visa and Exxon and Pepsi that are fully exempt from the mandate, but yet we are threatened, the government is threatening us with fines of over $70 million a year.
This case underscores the paralysis at the court on some issues after the death of Justice Antonin Scalia, who, given his history and ideology, would have been a likely vote for the sisters. Should the remaining 8 justices split 4-4, the contraception mandate would stand in 22 states where it has been upheld by 7 federal appeals courts, but it would be invalid in the 7 states covered by the only appeals court to rule against the mandate, and up for grabs in the remaining 21 states. The stakes are enormous for both sides, and at Mass last week, the Little Sisters of the Poor could be heard appealing to an even higher court. With the justices appearing equally divided, it may take some divine intercession for either side to pick up the crucial 5th vote. For Religion and Ethics News Weekly, I'm Tim O'Brien in Washington.